Welcome to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My name is April, and my very special guest today is Paige Hall. I am thrilled to have her. Paige has a variety of naturally born spiritual gifts. She's a psychic, she's a clairvoyant, she's a crystal messenger, she's a cellular regenesis specialist. She's a channel for spirit, and she's a new earth visionary, and she has a new program she's working on as a radiant wealth mentor. So thank you so much, sister, for coming on today, and I appreciate your time.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting, isn't it? It's such a perfect divine timing. Finish the Lion's Gate, and then we're on this massive, very rare, the super blue moon in Aquarius. So it is really perfect divine timing, and I'm really thankful to be here.
Wow, and you reminded me of that. It is a super blue moon tonight. Or last night, but we're still feeling all the energy of it. I woke up feeling it myself. So for those in my audience that are not familiar with Paige, I would love to just have you give us a little background, because you had a very special maternal influence in your life. And could you speak to us about your childhood and your spiritual journey that brought you to where you are today?
I sure can. It's interesting because I always say that I feel that I've had dozens of lifetimes just in this one. There's just been so many variations of timelines. Some have been filled with traumatic events, and some have been just complete off-planet experiences, very, very multi-dimensional experiences when I was a baby, really. And I will always say I've been extremely blessed with such a gifted mother, and I'm so grateful to the contract. I'm so grateful that we chose each other, because I honestly don't know how I would have been able to navigate this ascension process without having the transference of wisdom, the highest wisdom, the claircognizance and the clairvoyance that I feel was birthed through her. I've had the knowing, I've had the claircognizance ever since I was a baby. And I can remember even just coming out and feeling the energy from my hands and seeing energy off of plants and off of, let's say, any object that would be around me. I did my mother's mother, my grandmother. She was from Salem, Massachusetts. So I grew up with a very deep remembering and knowing of how powerful the feminine energy is. And some of it was an innate knowing. I remember going with my mother to certain graveyard, actually, and her finding her actual tombstone from that period of just the witch hunt. So it's my mother wrote a book about that time period. She was just phenomenal. She was a phenomenal medium, channel, and very, very powerful healer. And she had, she worked with crystals. She was very, very unique and would help anybody. She was just incredible. And she was assistant pastor of a spiritualist church in Onset, Massachusetts, and also in Wales in the UK. But when I was a child, I had a unique experience where most babies, their first word is, mama or dada. And my first word was hi. Hi. And so everyone that would come in, hi. I also knew that I had a gift of seeing. I had a spirit guide, which was an animal spirit guide, a horse, and she spoke to me, and we used to ride on adventures, and it wasn't a imaginary friend. It was knew that this was a multi-dimensional being. Where I also had a lion, and I also had a white Labrador retriever as my spirit guides when I was very young. I also learned how to protect myself from off-planet entities and any discordant energies. And with my younger sister and I, we built up a protection field around us, almost like Star Trek. And we pressed buttons and we could see this shield actually coming over us, almost like we were in pods.
Mhm.
And this was shown to us what to do through spirit, through our guides. I'm not really knowing why I needed it. I knew, but I was being taught this for a reason. When I was 5, I amped up my protection because my parents there was a lot of arguing and a lot of traumatic, abusive situations in my household. And then I realized why I had built up this shield of protection to protect myself from the energy of that sadness, that grief, and complete confusion as to what was really going on. And I would sit in my little cub space in my room and I would write all of these, I would just write. And looking back on it, I realized what I was writing was light language at the time, pages and pages. I'm very young, like must have been 6 years old. Said, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. And I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And every single thing that I had said to my mom, I ended up doing. I ended up manifesting. I learned both ends of the spectrum of manifestation, that to be a little bit more discerning with what I want, because say I want that and maybe it's really not for my highest and best, then I'm going to actually learn the harder way and take another route to my purpose. I was really blessed growing up in the spiritualist church because I was 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, going to the spiritualist church on Friday or Wednesday nights to psychometry classes, going to psychic fairs, and they were held at the church, and knowing that I could do what they were doing. So I was just dove into having spiritual mentors, and my mother was very strict. I was not allowed to row. I wasn't allowed to work with pendulums or anything that could be manipulated by any other energy. They wanted me to know the difference between an outside energy source and the one source. Not to say I didn't dabble in it later on, because I certainly did, but having that sort of strict training absolutely showed me how to discern.
Wow.
So I was able to then give readings and do healing. I was able at a very young age, about 12, 13, to see discrepancies in the physical body, in the auric field. It was as if I just knew. I knew what to do. I knew where to go in the body to do laying on of hands at the time is what they called it then. And now we have modalities like energy healing and Reiki. But it just came really natural to me. And also working with crystals became very, very natural to me because I could see the crystal beings that were in mostly quartz energies. And then I was transported into these specific star systems and crystal kingdoms and the crystal core of this planet. And I was shown how the planet began. I was shown information that there's no way I could read up on that information. It really wasn't available at the time, but I would read all of my mother's books, tiny little pocket books about the law of one and about ascension. And this was back in the 70s, really. But my mother had those books for years. And we're learning about Atlantis and my part in Atlantis as a keeper of the crystals, my part in Lemuria, my part in the Dolphin Collective. So as I was learning, as when the harder lessons began, more in the Egyptian pyramid time frame, I saw more manipulation of energy and more galactic wars and my part in that. And of course, this isn't something that I could share. I couldn't really share this as a girl, except for my mother. I could talk to her about healing and the crystals. And then we would start to work together on energy and kinesiology and things like that. And so as I became a teenager, it's all about, where do I fit in? Now, where do I fit in? Because I have this secret of, wait a minute, I'm actually really psychic and I know when someone's going to call me, I know what's going to happen. And I would read a book in school and I would know all the answers when the quiz came or the test came. And so I wasn't really learning much because I was bored, and it was more important for me to be around the social and to be liked because I felt so out of place. And so I became just friends with everybody, and I followed my passion. I used to take the bus, went to Boston, and I used to sit on the wall, and I used to just watch people walk by and what were they doing, and I would tap into them, and I would be able to feel into their lives and what they were doing. And then I became really interested in acting, the fashion industry. So I channeled off into a career of that's what I was going to do. And until I became typecast and I didn't want to do that work anymore. To getting married and then going through a traumatic experience there with just heart wrenching, just abuse, and using all of my experiences in my life to where I am now. I always say that to my clients: you have to go through, let's say, initiations in a sense, to be able to share your wisdom. And it's very, very obvious when someone is authentic and someone is not. If you're tapped in and if you're trusting your own intuition and your own discernment and are able to work through the traumatic experiences that you've been led into. So having all of this information, where, I'm a crystal messenger. I was married at the time. I had decided to go back to university. I think I went back late 20s or early 30s, and I excelled, and I felt so free because I felt like I finally had a niche that I could share all of who I was with, sharing mostly for women and liberating women stuck in really difficult situations. So I became a voice for women to assist them with further education, with being able to build a life for themselves, and the immense gratitude that came out of that, to be able to talk about my eating disorder that I had, that formulated when I was just very young, because I had developed much sooner than other girls, and the labels that came with that, and the fear of development. So I was able to get published and speak at pretty prestigious colleges. And it was a really amazing time in my life. When my mother passed, it was a shock because she passed very suddenly. And I went into the grief was so intense. There was such a huge part of me that didn't care, that I had nothing to lose anymore at that point. I was in an abusive relationship then, and I broke off the engagement very quickly after that. And I stopped doing what I was doing with the Women in Transition program. I knew I was supposed to go into something else, into some kind of mentoring or life coaching, but I knew that I couldn't get there until I went through this process of grief. And it was a very, very painful experience, and also a very liberating experience, because eventually my mother became my multidimensional master guide. Because of that level of protection that I had formulated as a girl, I was never exposed to the fourth dimensional, let's say, archonic entities and attachments. I had such a team. Contact from that realm could not permeate that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense to people that are, and fifth dimensional, because there is polarity in the fifth dimension, and that people don't really realize. It's not the highest dimensional aspect. So getting back to that time of when my mother had passed, there was just so much that came to the surface that had to be dealt with within the family, and also in my own personal growth. And I must have spent a month just not eating, laying in the bed, and going through the regrets that I had as well after that. It was just so much. And I reached a point where I said, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. This doesn't have any purpose for me whatsoever. I'm never going to be able to make a difference without her here. I don't have a purpose. And I just said, I surrendered. I've had several near-death experiences in my life, and this one felt like that. I left my body organically. It wasn't because of drugs or anything like that. I didn't do any drugs at all. And I remember just zooming through this tunnel, this vast sort of, it felt like, if anybody remembers the movie Contact, where Jodie Foster is going through this wormhole, it felt like that to me. When I got to the end of it, and I remember the feeling I'm getting the whole, I remember feeling so free, and I could feel that all I was a light body. And it was just the most out of this world feeling experience. And then I was stopped. And then at the end of this wormhole tunnel, I was stopped with a big hand that was full of light that was stopping me. And I said, no, 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 you get out of the way, right? And it was the Christed consciousness the only thing that I could associate at the time, that it was the Yeshua, it was that consciousness, it was the Christed consciousness, because it was just pure light. Mm-hmm. But I was able to see the face. And I remember clearly the voice saying, you are not done here. You are not done. And I've heard this, and I have heard this since. That was in 2000. And I'd heard it again back in 2017. So I heard it again 7 years later when I had another near-death experience. And it was clear, you're not done. Your purpose is far from done, and you're going back. So came back. And slept and cried, and for days. And then I ended up deciding to go in a completely different direction. And it was time to leave the women in transition. I needed to put all my gifts together, energy healing techniques, my claircognizant techniques, manifestation techniques, along with nutritional health and detoxification, because I was shown a whole other template a few years later. But then the timeline that was to occur before 2012, 9/11, and I had seen it all. I was shown it years prior. I didn't understand the magnitude of it, because at the time when I was shown it, I thought it was a natural disaster, and I was just shown that I would be leading hundreds of people through this pile of rubble. And so then after that, I'm working with rescue and recovery teams and social worker cases and things like that, and helping families through post-traumatic and through healing. And so I did that in New York City for a couple of years, and then founded a vacation project on Cape Cod and Nantucket. And it was all through all volunteer, all donations to help families heal. So I did that, and I was able to then go on to the next, which was working closely with veterans and soldiers that had PTSD from combat and an injury. And I needed to take a break from that. And then I transitioned from that, coming completely out of the closet in 2009. And I said, actually, this is what I do. And I'm no longer going to hide it, that I'm able to see what's going on in the physical body. I'm able to see what's going on in your emotional body. I'm able to see why you're here. And this is what I'm going to do for now. It's time to teach the techniques that I knew through crystal healing. I'm working with a shaman, a Cherokee shaman, for brain balancing. I'm using kyanite and selenite, working with all of the quartz family. I'm doing crystal healing and spinning out vortex, black goo, you name it, out of cells, out of the body, out of the energy field, and really digging deep into conscious eating and what that involved for my clients, their next phase to assist their light body integration, because it was happening at such a rapid rate from 2009 onward. So I then decided, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, then I better go ahead and get some certification. And I'm like, okay, I don't really need them, but I'm going to go ahead and get them anyway. So I got certifications in cellular detoxification and certifications in natural health and crystal healing and, all the, Reiki master and violet flame. And then I started a light workers group, and things just exploded really from there. But in 2015, I was told by one of my spirit guides, who was named the Doctor of Chemistry, Asian doctor, medicine. And he kept showing me the table of elements. And so then before I know it, I'm working with the blood, the DNA in the blood, and then I'm working with the heavy metals that have been accumulated in the brain. And then I'm working with the purification, the filtration of the kidney system, the immune system. I'm working with the nervous system through the table of elements. So I was given light language for this one. I'll just do it real quick. This one, this is for heavy metals. And so I was shown which symbols to actually, let's say, insert into the light body to get them spinning to get their cells going through regenesis process. That stayed on hold because for about 3 years, because again, I allowed someone into my life that came and took the codes from me. My work and my workshops and everything was sort of just completely taken from me. I didn't understand at the time what was happening. I just knew that all of a sudden, all the information that was already within me that I was sharing, that was a mystery to people that were claiming to be of a, let's say, higher level, actually just wanted my information. And it was very, very similar to what happened when I'm being a keeper of the crystals and codes in Atlantis. In Lemuria, I was keeper of the aquamarine ray. And in Atlantis, I was keeper of the ruby ray, and worked with garnet and ruby to transform, to heal all the hybridization experiments that was going on at that time. So I had all those codes returned to me, and let's just say a team of others wanted those codes. But then again, I was saved again by my team after the great solar eclipse in 2017. I was hit head on by a driver. The next thing I know, I'm looking down at myself on the concrete, and then I was shown here, I was in the ambulance, and I had a lot of, the hematomas on my stomach were completely black. And I had just the hematomas all over my body, and I had broken thumb, and I had a lot of blood. But I had a choice point where I had a team of angelics with me, and I had my mother. They said I had a choice this time. You can exit or you can go back. But if you go back, this is what you're going to have to deal with. And I chose to come back. So since then, I ended up becoming homeless. My car was totaled. I took a complete year off from doing any spiritual work whatsoever. And then, just like that, I started to bring the fragments of my soul back into the body. And then I was shown everything that I was going to end up having to teach with my template, which is now called Feeding the Light Body, 144 Days to Cellular Regenesis. So when I say throughout this lifetimes, I've always have healed myself. This is the power that I lead with, that if I can do this, so can anyone else. And if I have this wisdom, all you need is to get the noise out of the way. So the Feeding the Light Body came full on, and then I started to be able to find someone that could put the artwork with the codes, and then the elixirs came in as well, the crystal elixirs with the light language, with the formula. And then I had some of the elixirs tested scientifically as well, and that was for me a game changer. And I couldn't keep them in the store enough. I couldn't keep them in. And then people were purchasing these grids as well, so that they could, even if they didn't know how to work with them yet, it didn't matter. They would still have the alchemy of the grids through the light language. And then I left that in the template and then really got serious about cellular detoxification, because so many people were finally coming to me with what is going on with the physical body, with so many chronic illnesses or sudden illnesses. And back in 2010 and 2011, I was a guest on many radio shows, and I was told then to let everyone else speak about the spiritual development, and you're supposed to talk about the physical body. And I said, oh, and nobody wants to talk about the physical body. My guides were very specific. Yes, but you are in this vessel. In this vessel is just as important as all the other layers of development. And if it's not embodied, then the physical vessel, the cells begin to decay, and people have a false sense of reality that they don't need to really take care of themselves, because they think spirit's just going to take care of them for them. So it became a radical step, really, towards self-responsibility and accountability for how one is treating themselves emotionally, what patterns are continually playing out, and where it's stored in the body, and how to shift it.
Thank you so much for sharing. My guides, or my higher self, has made it so clear to me that the higher consciousness to embody needs a clean physical vehicle.
Yeah.
You are a guide for us with your higher wisdom and your spiritual abilities to lead us in how to do this.
The template that I was given originally was called the Diamond Light Body Perfect Health Template. And I knew that that was not going to reach the audience, the people that were really, really needing this. So when I clearly received the name Feeding the Light Body, 144 days to cellular regenesis, because I was shown that it takes 144 days, at least 44 days, for a cell to release and clear a program that it would be regenified. It would not be able to be reversed. But there's 44-day modules within this template. Just briefly, for an example, module 1, we dive right into the viral programming and any discordances that are keeping the immune system down from full healing. So we work a lot with the Diamond Light Body. We work a lot with the Diamond Higher Heart Center, the thymus. So we work a lot with the glandular system. We would focus more on the detoxification process. And I do a scan on everybody that comes to me first, so we know exactly what's going on and what needs to be cleared. So in the module 1, we're clearing viral programs and building the immune system, which is I am unity. And then in module 2, the next 44-day module, we go into clearing heavy metals that are accumulated, that are affecting the brain cells. And we also work with diving deep into the sacred womb. We clear out those heavy metals that are causing the brain fog and some neurological issues. And then we also clear the blocks in these sacred wounds. The amount of releasing that comes from the emotional body is so profound during module 2. So I don't encourage intermittent fasting during this time or any fasting. And then by the time we get into module 3, which is the third 44 days, we're clearing the blood, purifying the blood. I'm working through what I call a transfusion process. And we're also filtering the kidneys. This is probably when it gets most intense, is module 3, because by that time, my clients have already gone through a massive clear out of the emotional body. And now we're getting into the ancestral part of the DNA. And in each module, there's different parameters of detoxification. So there's a whole different parameter of foods they're going to have in module 1, in supplements or herbs, and very different in module 2, very different in module 3. We also do a parasite cleanse in module 3. And then in module 4, it's a 22 days. And this is when we start to dive into the body, the physical body, and the mental body is ready to actually do a fast. Okay, so we do a lot of juicing and fasting and going completely raw in those 22 days. So that individual's higher self is embodied, their connection to their divine source and their divine blueprint is clear channel, and the programs are cleared. It's quite a process. I always recommend that it's an amazing template, especially for people that are sound healers or holistic practitioners or detoxification coaches themselves. They have to go through the whole template in order for me to pass on any certification. But most people start with me because they know that they're blocked and they know that they need to clear the toxins, mostly from the physical body. But by the end of the template, they're amazed. We've had such amazing results. I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not making claim, okay? But I am a certified cellular detoxification specialist. All the results have been phenomenal. But the transformation is not for the faint of heart, just like the ascension process has never been for the faint of heart. And the ascension process has never really been what we thought it was going to be anyway. There is obviously a cost for the template, and people can purchase one module at a time, and then they can decide to go on to the next module, and each module involves a scan, so you get to see what's been cleared and what we need to work on next. Or they can purchase the entire template, the 144-day template. You get more of a discount by purchasing the whole template, the whole 144 days, but there's payment plans available. I could go on and on and on about it, but it is on my website, paigehall.love. I know you've done one of my cleanses before and really enjoyed it.
That I have asked Paige, and she's graciously agreed that we will do some follow-up conversations about different topics that she'll go in depth into. So I love you, sister.
I love you too. This was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, really looking forward to us coming back together. And I hope that this helps everyone that's watching.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
So thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to our
Thank you.
next conversation.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.